Well, hello there, Stag here. Today is coloring book day. I never really share the digital inking process for my coloring books, so I thought I would share that while I talk about the future of my books and talk about the feedback I've gotten. I am currently working on the 13th volume themed fairies of my series titled Misfits, a coloring book for adults and odd children. That sketch is just not working out the slightest. It was on the path to be like a skeleton flapper girl dancer. Oh no, no, no. The next version, arching the spine and pulling the head in, was just so much better. Anyways, when I started my series, I was using a Wacom bamboo. For a traditional artist, the disconnect of drawing on a tablet while looking at the screen was so very real. I had such a hard time. By volume 2, I got a pen tablet with a screen, and it was terrible. I was able to finally look at what I was drawing, so it was easier in that regard, but I didn't want to invest in like a Wacom Cintiq yet, so I had gotten a cheaper monitor from a company called Uji. That thing would do this weird pixelized drip from the lines, and there was so much cleanup work. And the calibration, that's a word, was always way off on the pen. It wasn't until I think volume 4 I said enough of that and invested in the Cintiq finally, and the difference was incredible and the line art was so much better. The earlier volumes had like thicker lines and just weren't as good as they could have been. Initially, I don't know what I was thinking making the lines that thick. I had no idea what I was doing. I have toyed with the thought of remastering them and going through and redrawing them all from at least the first two volumes, maybe the first 3. It is something I would very much like to do and probably retire the first editions. Like, I wouldn't want to remove them entirely because there are people that still want them, and there are a lot of people that still try to jack up the price all the time on Amazon. Like, that's just a crappy thing. But it is still something I've been keeping in mind, and I have pondered other avenues for this that I'll talk about later. I recently saw a post somewhere. I think I was tagged in an image and someone had asked, "Why does it say for odd children?" implying that could make people feel bad. When I was putting together the first book, I was using all existing work for my paintings. I knew I would have some dark pages, and I would probably press some buttons, while I would totally give this to my daughter. It's not everyone's cup of tea. I didn't want someone getting into it without expecting it would be a bit off, if that makes any sense. I didn't want parents freaking out about why those teddy bears had nail bats as a girl hung from a tree as piñata. It was just me playing with words to express it wasn't a normal book. You get to a point in your life where you just accept that you know you like weird stuff, and I would say parents know when their kids like weird stuff too, so it was just something I felt made people just stop and ask, is this book for me? And if they had an issue with it saying odd, then they would run the other way, and it wasn't for them to begin with. And if not, they embraced it. Depending on what themes I'm using for a book, it might be heavier on the fantasy side, but there are always a few dark pages. The biggest gripe with my books and all other books from Create Space is the paper quality. I hear you, and I agree. Where I get my books printed now, I don't have a paper choice. Create Space is great as I can offer them to so many people through Amazon, but the paper sucks. It's kind of like computer paper, and I know some people would like to use markers like Copics or paint, and I believe you can still use them, but definitely place some loose paper underneath the page that's being worked on, and if it's paint, less water is probably best. But I have definitely seen people use Copics. I don't personally use markers, so I have no idea if they do anything special. There is a coloring group for my coloring books that I will post a link to that in the description, but it's a Facebook group for people share and color the pages from my books. So maybe someone there can be helpful on that regard. But because of the paper issue, I also get asked a lot if I have digital pages available for this reason. So people can print them out on whatever they like or try again. In the far future, I do plan on releasing some digital sets, and I did just launch a new reward tiers on Patreon. I release 2 pages every month now to the $5 and up patrons, and they get access to the other posts as well. They may be old pages remastered from a book not out yet, or just something exclusive. So what about an artist edition? That's when there's normally like thicker, better paper, sometimes spiral bound so it opens flat. You start adding all those extra features, it gets pretty pricey for the printing real fast. So I was thinking of possibly trying to solicit some publisher, but without an agent it seems a little hard. Publishers normally don't take a lot of individual submissions. They actually hide their submission guidelines. As a small run of a book, printing to do an artist edition print can be quite expensive, and I do not have the storage space to keep an entire book run on hand right now. I'm sure someday there will be an artist edition, but at this point in time, it is a little off. I never wanted to go the agent route in anything with my art, because I like my freedom. I like to do whatever I damn well please anytime. But I will at least still try to pursue some publishers. But Anthem Publishing, they did put out a Misfits edition from Coloring Heaven. The book is sold out as far as I've seen, but if you were able to get the quality of it, was great. It had a lot thicker paper, and you could even color on the cover too. They run kind of like a periodical, like I think they have like monthly editions. They feature from various artists. Let's talk shipping. So books are expensive to ship. They are dense and the weight builds up very, very fast for shipping. If you're in the United States, medium mail is an option for me to ship, but it's not as good as first class mail. It takes longer, and if there's other items in an order, they normally just ship first class, unfortunately. But if you're international and not in the United States, I strongly suggest, if you have an Amazon for your country, to order off there instead of from me. You will save a ton on shipping. This wasn't really feedback I got, but I feel so bad having to charge so much for shipping. International rates have almost doubled a year ago for me when they took away this envelope flats rate, where I could ship like flat packages at a much cheaper rate. As far as the series goes, I have found myself pondering just how far it will go. After this edition, I think I will go Mystical Beasts. I already have the first unicorn page for that. I'd still like to do a cryptid edition as well, and you can probably expect another spooky edition around Halloween, quite possibly. But someday, it will have to come to an end. I wouldn't mind doing like a theme book that tells a story or the characters are intertwined, but I really should just stick to one project at a time. Like, I don't know how far the series will go. I can't ever give a definite answer on that, but it has definitely slowed down the last year, at least, maybe 2. Now, if you're looking at making a coloring book, there are many routes to go. I don't personally think the market is as big as it was a couple years ago for coloring books, and it is insanely oversaturated. Like, I self-published. At the time, it was called CreateSpace. Now it's called Kindle Direct. You can find like a plethora of information from them, at least you could, on like just perusing their site and like formatting information depending on the size of the book you plan. There are cons to self-publishing, and like I said earlier, I am even pondering a move to find an actual publisher myself if I can find one. Anyways, I hope you guys enjoyed the inking process of some of the newer pages. I'm aiming to have this book out in 2 weeks. Thank you guys for watching. Feel free to follow me on Instagram where I post daily. You can also find me on Patreon for monthly mystery packs and the digital coloring pages. And as always, you can find a menagerie of prints, paintings, pins, stickers, and more feature my art, even an oracle deck at lowbrowmisfits.com. Well, bye.